She was just days away from bringing a new life into the world, her baby boy. But before that could happen, she vanished. And when they found her, she was lying face down in a ditch off a quiet Florida road, her body broken, her throat crushed. The only heartbeat that could have saved her was gone too. August 2018, Fort Pierce, Florida. The sun was setting over the marshy back roads of St. Lucie County when a passing driver noticed something strange, a flash of color on the side of the road. At first, he thought it was trash, maybe a pile of clothes. But as he got closer, he realized it was something else entirely. The shape wasn't random. It was human. That's how 23-year-old Tanya Wise was found, dumped like she didn't matter, just days before she was supposed to give birth to her son. She was young, beautiful, full of life. And she was 9 months pregnant. The scene was gruesome. Detectives later described it as one of the most disturbing they had ever seen. The medical examiner's report revealed what the photos already screamed. Tanya had been beaten severely. Her skull was fractured, her throat showed signs of manual strangulation, and the attack had been so brutal that her unborn child didn't stand a chance. At first, no one could understand it. Who would do this? Tanya wasn't involved in drugs or gangs. She wasn't living a dangerous life. She was a dancer, someone trying to make ends meet, someone excited to become a mother. But hidden beneath that image was a secret, one that would cost her life. When investigators started piecing together her final days, they found out Tanya had confided in a few people about her pregnancy. And about the baby's father, a man much older than her. A man who was married. That man was Jose Soto Escalera, a 49-year-old Florida local who led a double life, husband, father, and, as it turned out, a killer. To the outside world, Jose seemed stable, quiet, hardworking. But behind that calm exterior was a secret affair with a woman half his age, one that spiraled into manipulation, rage, and ultimately, murder. Tanya had told a close friend she was scared. She said Jose didn't want the baby. He had already given her money, $500, to end the pregnancy, but she didn't. And when he found out she still planned to have the child, he snapped. Police learned of this chilling detail through another dancer who once worked with Tanya. She told detectives that Tanya had called Jose in front of her, demanding help. Tanya told him she was pregnant and needed money for an abortion. But when he refused, she threatened to tell his wife. The friend remembered every word. The tension in Tanya's voice, the panic, the fear. Jose's reaction wasn't one of compassion. It was anger, the kind that bubbles just before it explodes. At first, detectives didn't think much of Jose. He didn't fit the picture of a violent man. And they had other leads, a few names of men who'd been seen around the club where Tanya worked. But as the days went on and the evidence grew thin, Jose's name kept resurfacing, again and again. When detectives brought him in for questioning, he appeared calm, too calm. He denied any romantic relationship with Tanya, claiming he only knew her through mutual acquaintances. Their kids, he said, were friends. But that story didn't add up. The detectives noticed something off. His demeanor didn't match the situation. A pregnant woman he supposedly knew, brutally murdered, and he had almost no reaction. Still, they had nothing concrete, until they asked to see his phone. Jose handed it over without hesitation, thinking he had covered his tracks. He had deleted all his recent calls, his text messages, everything that could connect him to her. But what he didn't delete was his search history, and what they found was enough to chill any detective to the bone. At exactly 7:38 a.m. on August 23, 2018, just days before Tanya's body was discovered, Jose had typed into Google, "dead body in woods" and "wooded area dead body." He clicked on multiple results, reading about how long bodies take to decompose in Florida heat. It was the smoking gun they'd been waiting for. But still, police needed more. Something to physically tie him to the crime scene. That's when two witnesses came forward. They reported seeing a truck matching Jose's near the area where Tanya's body was later found. A white pickup, slow-moving, around midnight. Surveillance cameras later confirmed it. The same truck was caught on video near that stretch of road, hours before a passerby made the horrifying discovery. Detectives knew now. They had their man. Still, the biggest question haunted everyone involved. Why? Why would a man old enough to be her father commit such a horrific act, not only killing Tanya, but also his own unborn child? The answer, prosecutors would later say, was simple but twisted: control and shame. Jose's secret affair threatened his perfect image: a wife, a family, a reputation, all built on lies. And when Tanya refused to obey him, when she chose to keep the baby, he demanded she abort. He decided if she wouldn't get rid of it, he would. The autopsy confirmed Tanya was carrying a fully developed baby boy. DNA testing later proved Jose was the father. The story made headlines across Florida. A pregnant woman found dead, a secret lover exposed, and a web of deceit unraveling fast. Jose was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, one for Tanya and one for the unborn child he never wanted. But even then, he showed no remorse. He pleaded not guilty. He looked the judge in the eye and said, "I didn't do this." For 7 long years, he clung to that story, until the truth finally caught up with him. And when it did, it wouldn't just end in a conviction. It would end with the ultimate punishment. Because in October 2025, a Florida courtroom would go silent as the judge prepared to deliver his sentence. And Jose Soto Escalera would learn what happens when a man tries to play God. The courtroom was silent. You could hear the faint hum of the air conditioner, the creak of wooden benches, and the quiet shuffle of jurors finding their seats. It had been 7 years since Tanya Wise's body was discovered. 7 years of waiting, fighting, and grieving. Now, the man accused of killing her, and his own unborn child, sat shackled in a navy jumpsuit, expressionless, staring at the floor like he'd already accepted his fate. Jose Soto Escalera, a name that had become synonymous with deceit and horror in St. Lucie County. The prosecution wasted no time painting a picture of the man they said killed out of pride and shame. He wasn't a monster who acted on impulse, they said. He was calculating. He planned this. He thought about it. He even searched how to hide a body. Those Google searches became the heart of the case. Every word he typed screamed premeditation. Dead body in woods. Wooded area dead body. How long before a body is found? He wasn't panicking when he typed those. He was preparing. Jurors watched as detectives recounted the moment they confronted Jose with that evidence. He didn't flinch. He didn't cry. He simply leaned back and said, "You can't prove it was me." But they could. Video footage showed his white pickup truck driving down that same lonely road the night Tanya disappeared. 2 witnesses described seeing a vehicle just like his, parked in the darkness, engine running, and then there was the DNA. Investigators had recovered trace evidence from Tanya's body and the surrounding scene. When lab results came back, the truth hit like a thunderclap. The DNA matched Jose Soto Escalera. Not only was he the father of Tanya's unborn child, he was now tied directly to her murder. Still, the defense tried to twist the narrative. They argued that Jose was being framed, that there was no conclusive proof placing him at the exact time of death. They said maybe someone else, a jealous customer from the club, a stalker, had done it. But the jury wasn't buying it, because while words can lie, evidence doesn't. In the middle of the trial, prosecutors unveiled something that froze the entire courtroom. It was a photograph, taken just days before Tanya's death. She was smiling, standing in front of a mirror, her hand resting gently on her pregnant belly. The life inside her was days from entering the world, and yet, sitting in that courtroom, the man responsible for taking it away didn't even blink. Her family couldn't hold back their tears. Her mother, trembling, whispered, "She trusted him, and he killed them both." The jury deliberated for hours. Then the foreman stood, holding the slip of paper that would decide everything. The verdict: guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder. For a moment, everything went still. No one spoke. Even Jose, for the first time, seemed to lose his composure. His lips tightened, his jaw clenched. But he never once looked toward Tanya's family. The prosecutors had done their job. But for the family, justice still didn't feel like enough. How do you forgive a man who not only kills someone you love, but an innocent child who never got the chance to take a breath? Weeks later, the courtroom filled again for sentencing. Judge Lawrence Merman presided. his tone steady but cold. The jury had already recommended death. Now, it was time for the final word. Jose sat motionless as the judge spoke. Jose Soto Escalera, the jury has found you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt for the murders of Tanya Wise and your unborn child. He paused, letting the silence hang. For these crimes, the court imposes the sentence of death. The words echoed through the chamber like a thunderclap. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Tanya's mother clutched her chest, whispering, "Thank you, God." Her father sat frozen, staring straight ahead, tears streaking his face. Jose didn't move. He didn't cry. He didn't even blink. He simply turned his head and whispered something under his breath. Something no one could hear. Some say he muttered a prayer. Others believe he was cursing the world that had finally caught up with him. As deputies escorted him out, shackles clinking against the courtroom floor, his eyes briefly met the cameras. No remorse, no emotion. Just the hollow stare of a man who thought he could bury his sins in the dirt. The death sentence would bring closure, but not peace. Because while Jose's fate was sealed by law, the emotional wounds he left behind, the trauma, the questions, the pain, would never fully heal. In interviews after the sentencing, Tanya's family spoke of her kindness, her laughter, her excitement about becoming a mother. She was ready, her sister said softly. She had the crib set up, the baby clothes washed, everything ready for her little boy. She didn't deserve this. And then there was the detail that haunted everyone. Tanya had planned to name her son Josiah, a name that meant healed by God. But in the end, neither she nor Josiah ever got the chance to live the life they were promised. Outside the courthouse, rain began to fall. Dark clouds rolled in over St. Lucie County, heavy, suffocating, and cold. It felt poetic in a tragic way, because in that storm, justice had been served. But something far greater had been lost. Still, there were whispers. Whispers that maybe Jose hadn't acted alone, that someone else knew what he planned that night, that there were things about this case that never made it into the courtroom. And as the death sentence was carried out on paper, those questions began to resurface. Had he really planned everything by himself? Or had someone helped him silence the woman who threatened to expose his double life? The truth, the full truth, might still be buried out there, somewhere in those same woods where Tanya's body was found. They say evil doesn't just disappear when the case closes. It lingers, in the empty spaces, in the sleepless nights, in the lives left shattered by someone else's choices. For the people who loved Tanya Wise, justice came with a price. And even after the courtroom lights dimmed and the news cameras left, the horror of what happened never really went away. Jose Soto Escalera was sent to Florida's death row. A cold, sterile world of steel bars, fluorescent lights, and endless silence. Every morning he woke up to the sound of doors clanging open, guards calling names, and the heavy echo of footsteps in narrow hallways. No freedom, no family, just time. Time to think about the lives he destroyed. But if anyone thought he felt remorse, they were wrong. Inside prison, he kept to himself. He rarely spoke, rarely showed emotion. Some inmates described him as calm, too calm, like he was still living in denial. Others said he often sat staring at the wall for hours, whispering in Spanish under his breath, repeating the same words again and again. He never once apologized to Tanya's family. Not during trial, not after sentencing, not in the years that followed. For Tanya's loved ones, that silence cut deeper than the crime itself. Her mother, in one interview, said she used to dream of her daughter holding the baby she never got to meet. She said the dreams always ended the same way. Tanya turning, reaching out, and disappearing into the dark. Those dreams became a cruel reminder of what could have been. A young mother, a newborn son, a new life that was never allowed to begin. The house Tanya once lived in was eventually cleared out. Her belongings packed into boxes. Among them, a small blue onesie with the words, "Mommy's Little Miracle," written across the front. She'd bought it the week before her murder. It was still folded neatly in a drawer when police searched her home. That image, a baby outfit waiting for a child who would never come home, haunted investigators for years. Some of them said it was one of the hardest cases they ever worked. Not just because of the brutality, but because it was avoidable. All Tanya wanted was to be a mother. All Jose wanted was to make sure no one found out. Behind closed doors, he lived two lives, the family man and the secret predator. And when those worlds collided, he chose violence to protect the lie he'd built. Experts later described his mindset as narcissistic rage, the type that surfaces when a person's pride is threatened. He wasn't killing out of passion. He was killing out of control. To him, the unborn child wasn't a life. It was evidence. Evidence that could ruin him. Evidence that could expose everything. So he silenced it. But no matter how carefully he tried to hide what he'd done, the truth clawed its way out. Even after the conviction, small details continued to surface. Detectives revealed that in the weeks leading up to the murder, Jose had become increasingly paranoid. He'd searched not only how to hide a body, but also how police trace phone data, how to delete text records permanently, and what happens when a pregnant woman disappears. Every search, every click, revealed how far he was willing to go. When those details became public, the community was furious. People asked how a man who appeared so ordinary could commit something so monstrous. But that's the thing about evil. It doesn't always look like a monster. Sometimes, it looks like your neighbor, your coworker, your friend. The facade breaks only when the truth does. In the years after his conviction, advocates began using Tanya's case to raise awareness for violence against pregnant women, a type of crime far more common than most realize. Studies show that homicide is one of the leading causes of death for pregnant women in the United States. Tanya became another statistic, but her story also became a symbol, a warning. Her mother once said, "I want people to remember her name, not just how she died." And people did. Local groups held candlelight vigils every year on the anniversary of her death. They lit 24 candles, one for every year Tanya should have been alive, and one small white candle for the baby she never got to hold. Inside the prison walls, Jose grew older. His dark hair turned gray. His face hardened with time. But if he ever felt guilt, he never showed it. He became just another inmate waiting for an execution date that might take years to come. And yet, every once in a while, guards said they'd catch him staring at the small slot in his cell door, as if waiting for someone to come. Someone who never would. Florida's death row is notorious for its silence. No clocks, no sense of time, just the weight of what's been done, echoing endlessly. For Tanya's family, the sentence brought justice, but never peace. Because justice doesn't bring back the dead. It just reminds the living that the world can be cruel, that love can turn to horror in the blink of an eye. In one of her final texts, Tanya had told a friend, "I just want him to accept it. I'm keeping my baby. He'll come around." She believed that somewhere inside him was still a shred of humanity. She was wrong. And in those final moments, when she realized what was happening, she must have been terrified, fighting for her life, fighting for her baby. But no one was there to help her. That's the part that keeps people awake at night. The thought of a young woman, alone on a dark road, pleading for mercy from someone she once trusted. Someone who decided that if she wouldn't disappear quietly, he'd make sure she did. Now, years later, her story lives on. Not in headlines, but in whispers. In the way people drive a little slower past that stretch of road in St. Lucie County. In the way they glance at the woods, wondering how someone could throw away two lives so easily. And maybe, just maybe, somewhere in the stillness of those trees, her spirit still lingers. Not in fear, but in defiance. A reminder that even in death, the truth has a voice. And it never stays buried for long. Because no matter how deep you hide the evidence, how careful you are to erase the past, the earth remembers. And one day, it gives everything back.